Hey guys, what is up? What is up? Hope everybody's having a good morning if you're up this early. Yeah, I just wanted to give everybody an update on what's going on and add a few things here to what's actually been happening, and some of the stuff that we've discussed is actually starting to occur. And we're going to get into that in just a second. So yeah, first off, let's do this real quick. Had a few more donations. I just want to bring this up real quick and just give everybody a shout out. I haven't been able to update this yet. To be frank with you guys, I haven't really been feeling all that well, and I've been trying to rest, and it's just, yeah, I'm not going to go too much into that, but I do appreciate everybody. So everybody on this list, plus these people, Julie H, Laura K, Kathy S, Carol B, Arthur. Okay, I talked about Arthur. My garage door did get fixed yesterday, Arthur, so thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Just to let you know. Let's see here. True Vast, Anthony L, Kristen L, David W again. Thanks a lot, buddy. I really appreciate you, man. I think the whole community does. I really do. You're a big part of what we do, okay? Even without what you do here, as far as the donating to other channels and things, you're just as important, if not more important, than what we're doing here, blasting us out with our voice, okay? You're propagating all this stuff. You're pushing it out to everybody as much as you can, and I really appreciate that. And it ain't just me, it's the whole community. You do it with everybody. So thank you so much. Rebecca S. Okay. And then, Scott over at Planet X News. Sam G. Margaret F. Zarina D. Dave and Renee B. Julie W. Jill D. and Bean. Thanks a lot, guys. I really, truly appreciate everything. Angela T, Janet S, Kim W also. All right. So thank you guys so much. I can't believe the love that I get here with this. It's amazing. So I appreciate everybody that's in here. There is my PayPal link, and that will be the last time I talk about it. This video. Let's get moving. Thanks to everybody sitting there. Arizona, thank you for being here, modding for me today. Yeah, and somebody was asking me about the notification on the email stuff. I'm working on that too, guys. I've just had to take a step back for a minute and slow down just for a few. Again, with a lot of stuff that's been going on and everything else, I just really have not had the time to put anything like that together. I'm barely having enough time to do any research. I usually go spend quite a few hours over at Mark's show too, and I've only been able to stick around there for about an hour. I fall asleep. I'm exhausted, just so you know. It's kind of crazy. I don't mean to bail like that on people, but that's what happened. I fell asleep last night. I was over there. In case you guys don't know, Mark Pyers, Real Talk. Most of you guys know who he is because I've been shouting him out every video. He lost his grandfather yesterday, and yeah, so that sucks for anybody that goes through that. And he gives out so much love that I think we need to give it back to him. And so if you guys can, just show him some love, go over there and check him out. So yeah. Yeah, I don't feel bad about it, guys. I don't like to, I get kind of in a routine and stuff, and it kind of stepped me out of my routine and everything that was going on, but it is what it is. So I'm going to move on here, guys. I am going to put the chat away. Please take it easy on Arizona in there. I think she's the only mod here right now. I realize it's not my typical time that I'm on here live. I'm usually another hour or so away, but I just want to get this in. So, okay. So what we got here, guys? We got, well, first off, let me do this. I have to do this because this is what I do. Clark can't. First in here again, he is the man. Scaffman, Thinker, Sharon, Toluca, Clark again, Johnny Conaseed, Mary, Todd, Brittany, Maggie, Johnny again, Anglo-Saxon Israelite. Okay, I can't. I don't want to like butcher that name. I am sorry. Oh, okay. Well, you know, you don't have to stay if you don't want. It's okay. You know, I'm not saying anything bad's happening. You don't hear me say that. I show you what space weather is approaching, and I show you exactly the results that happen. And yes, there are some bad things that happen. Let me show you. This is a direct result of bad things that happen from space weather. Just so you know. Just, you know, it's a fact. This is empirical fact right here. You can't question that. If you want to know bad things that happen, this is one of the bad things that happens from what we see from space weather. So, just saying. And again, you know, I would encourage people that you know think this is a bunch of BS just to leave. You could stay. I would rather you stay, and then you can see what we have to say and what we have to offer, and see what kind of people we actually are, just trying to help people. And yeah. So yeah, normally there's a lot more. I'm on at a weird time. I'm not even sure what we got. Yeah, it's just at a weird time. I think that's kind of what we're seeing here. That I came in really. So that is what I would like to say there. But yeah, I don't know. You know, this will rise, guys, as the video gets going. So, you know, like I said, this is not the opportune time for me to be doing a live stream to try to get views. Hey, Farkas, what's up? That and you know, I guess the notifications could have not get sent out. Hey, do that. Appreciate you. Matter of fact, there you go. You got a wrench. So yeah. Oh, Clark. You know what, Clark? Here you go, buddy. You're always first in here, man. So there you go. You deserve that. You've been around a long time. So anyway, this, you know, guys, listen. This is going to bump up and down. It just does. Sometimes these numbers don't really match what's actually happening too. So yeah. So what we're going to do, again, we're going to keep moving. I'm sorry I got distracted there. When somebody comes in here and says stuff like that, you know, allow them to stay and allow them to have their opinion and all that. That was actually kind of a respectful way to say what she said. You know, what she asked the question, what is the point? I mean, nothing bad ever comes of this, and that's a very legitimate question. Okay? So, you guys seen what I did there, and I hope she's still here, because I went straight to this. This is a direct result of bad things that happen because of space weather. You've never heard me on here preaching into the world. You've got me on here talking about, you know, a pole shift that is actually in motion. And I give you my opinion what might happen if that does. But we're not going to go down that road right now. We're going to keep moving here, okay? Anyway, let me put this chat away. You guys are cool in there, so. We got this. This is the Schumann, guys, like I said. You know what, guys? I'm sorry, that's bothering me. Hold on 1 minute. Okay, it's public. Sometimes I put that like either private or something, and it will change how fast where it goes out to. And again, guys, we all know what happens. They're not going to propagate any kind of this kind of information. So we got, again, the same kind of spiking happening at the same kind of day, same time of day. And that's what we got. We got, you know, it's very similar each day right now at the same time. So if you're having ringing in your ears, all that kind of thing, that's also a direct result of space weather. and things happening right here on our planet. That's another thing that can be, this could affect our health directly, which is yet another bad thing that could happen that I don't typically point out as a bad thing, but that is a bad thing. Okay? So I just don't put it out there in that way like a lot of other people do. Space weather. You're seeing this bump up here, right? Remember in my last video I said, hey, we were in the basement, and I was waiting on this one to come in because we were seeing this stuff kind of spiking a little bit, and I, at the end of my video yesterday, I was showing you guys this right here, the magnetopause, how it was reacting like this, okay, and what was causing that. We got hit again too after I got off stream. See that? And I'll go back to this in just a minute. But that right there is this. Let me show you this so I can give you guys reference. One more day back, sorry. The big CME that happened back on the 29th. Okay? So it took it a little over 2 days, almost 3 to get here. And if you go back and watch my video, I actually point out that it could give us a glancing blow, right? And that's exactly what's happened, I believe. I can't really go and point out much of anything else as far as, data to show you, other than to, oops. Well, I guess I needed to do that. Where'd it go? Here it is. This is the CME tracker from that day. This is the big CME that blew off. And right here, okay, you see what's going on here. And I mentioned because this is Earth, and if you ran this a couple more days, all this energy kept bowing out, and it was going to glance us. And if we were to go over here and look at the one, I can't show it to you now because it's not there. The one that shows you the orbit, it's in a straight line. We see the distortion right at Earth, right on the edge of it. So oftentimes, and I've been reluctant to say, hey, yes, that one's going to catch us, because this is not a precise type of thing days out. Things change, other conditions happen, and they do not continually put new data to change this to make it correct as it gets closer. This model does not do that. It sees it one time, it puts it out there, and then if it sees another, it will update just for that one. So that's why we can't look at that. But this was showing us taking a glancing blow. And I mentioned yesterday that the Enlil model didn't show any of that. That got us, right? But something did, and it's still not showing. I don't know why it's not showing it. You can clearly see it here on the ACE. See all this fluctuation, how everything went high? Everything did. And it wasn't just like a half hour after the satellite blackout came back. We're talking, 2 or 3 hours afterwards, it's still jumping around, showing weather coming in, and the density here and the speed, all of that. The BZ, it went a little nuts right there. Everything did right there. Okay? So something had to cause that. That wasn't just from solar wind. That when we get hit like that, a typical solar wind stream is not going to do that. What it did to our magnetosphere. Now, something else that happened that I kind of touched on, but I was trying to watch it because I was right here. I didn't know the solar proton flux had jumped up yet. And I was actually telling you guys, hey, we've had a downtick in that because we didn't have any flares. We weren't having very many big ones. Okay? Seeing here how after this one it kind of spiked up a little bit, and then it kind of bounced back down. I mean, we had another little one right there, but sometimes that's not enough really to do much. And when we're talking about proton flux, we're talking about radiation, okay? So if we go down here and we look, this is the absorption rate model. I'm going to play it here. Well, I'm going to pause it. And you can kind of see everything was falling, kind of falling down. Stuff was starting to come back to a more ambient condition. And then watch what happens. Okay, we got a little flare there. It bumped us up a little bit. And when you see that purple or whatever colors that kind of bounce in here, those are X-rays. Okay? So when we get hit by a flare, that's what we see. So if we keep going, you see how things are starting to intensify here. And then this. Okay? Notice that all that went red down here without any massive, like, ionization from a flare. This was caused by that glancing blow, is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay? That's why our radiation just busted straight back to the roof. I don't want to call it the roof, because it's really not that high, because we really didn't even get into storm level. You know, if we go up here, it didn't even get to S1, but it got close. Now, would this really affect us here on the surface? Most of us wouldn't even know this was happening. Okay? We don't really, like, if on the surface type of thing, we're not really going to pay much attention to this unless it starts getting into S3 range. It's not really going to affect us a whole lot, because the further into the atmosphere it has to travel, the more that gets absorbed and blocked by our atmosphere before it gets down here. People that are like, you know, this really affects satellites a lot because it doesn't have the protection that we do here. And, you know, like astronauts and stuff that are out there. This is something they watch very, very closely. This is radiation. This would make them sick. This is probably the stuff that they're talking about when they're having to when they're talking about going all the way to Mars and stuff. This is the biggest thing. You know, Van Allen belts, all that kind of stuff that they have to go through. They have to travel all that way without an electromagnetic field from the Earth to protect them from the radiation from the sun. That is the biggest reason. That's the biggest challenge they have when they're trying to, you know, talk about manned space flights to other systems. Okay? So, yeah. That's why. Hey, Sid. Hey, Clark. Kyle. Taylor, there you go. You're in there. Sweet. Johnny. Serena. Just want to stop in, make sure everything's okay. Hey, Scott. What's up, bud? Yeah, we've got some earthquake activity happening. Actually, something just popped off just now, too. You know, I mean, it literally just happened. Just so everybody knows. We're going to go here, right here. The 5.2 here in Tonga. Now, that's not like a huge one. But what I want to point out, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about this real quick because we'll get back to there in a minute. But if you notice, let me do this real quick. Take this back to 2.5 and bigger. So, if you look at this as a global picture here, this is what you're seeing. You know, you see some down here, and we've already talked about these. Okay, that was a 6.2. Then, of course, we had the ones in Alaska yesterday. Well, I guess within 24 hours. This was the biggest one. They did set out a tsunami alert, but nothing ever really materialized from that. You guys can go over here and push these boxes if you want. I'd go there first, the green, because, well, let's just click it so you guys see why I think this one's the most important. It's because the information we're looking at. Estimated fatalities and estimated economic loss. That's really what we want to know. You know, we want to know what happened and everything like that too. But we want to be able to set our mind at ease when we're talking about, you know, especially like fatalities and stuff. We want to know that. That's really what we're trying to get to when we look at this information. So that, you know, if you push on the pager button, it takes you straight to this. This gives you the percentage of chance of these many people passing away. You know, I don't think anybody passed away from these. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure nothing ever really did. There were no, like, economic losses because no buildings were falling or nothing like that. It really matters where, you know, the biggest thing here, guys, is population. It's location when we're talking about these quakes. That's the biggest thing. We have to understand that. You know, if you take this big one here or this big one in Alaska and you dropped it right over top of New York, what do you think was going to happen? Or even drop it up over San Francisco where they're really, really prepared for, you know, the building codes are so much better out there for earthquakes. Seattle, all that. You drop an earthquake like that right on top of there, you're going to have some issues. Especially if you take it like here and go overseas. somewhere that doesn't prepare for any of this, and their economies really suck bad, and you still get highly populated areas where there is really bad building codes. Iran, Afghanistan, all those kinds of places. You drop an earthquake like that over there, you're talking massive death, massive economic loss. So it's all about location. But this one there just happened. Now, what I want to point out is, if you look at this, there is something I've been noticing, and it's not something new, but when we get these bigger ones here, if you notice, now last time we had it was like over a 7 here in the Aleutian Islands about a month ago. You guys probably remember that because it was one of the biggest ones we'd had in a while. We had quite a few aftershocks, right? But right now with this 6.4, I'm going to zoom in here and we'll take a look at it. That's all the other earthquakes that came along with that. It seems strange to me that that's the way that it is. And then you can go to this one, which is actually away from the plate boundary quite a ways. Now, I would say that these two are directly related, okay? You got 11:35 on a timestamp there, right here. That's Eastern time, by the way. I got to add 5 hours if you want to talk UTC. And then that one happened at 11:22. So 11:22 and then 11:35. A bigger one to a smaller one. That's, in my opinion, that's a direct transfer of energy, and another one popped off. Okay? That's just me. I think I'm probably pretty close to correct there. So, excuse me. So yeah, but I do notice that a lot of places around that get the bigger ones, because we had this, I'm going to talk about this one here in Nevada. Okay? That's a 5.1. That's significant for over land. Okay? It is. So if we zoom in, obviously this is California. We know this is a very active area, but you start seeing, the more you go in, look at all these aftershocks. Now I know that there's, volcanic stuff around here too. It's about terrain and everything else, and I think that that's why we see the swarming after the bigger ones in certain locations, and we don't see it in others. Now I think, like if we get like an 8.0 or something, you got to understand, no matter where that hits, you're going to have aftershocks. Things are not going to just completely go back to normal. I just find it kind of strange that we look at this one here. It's a 5.7. And there are absolutely no other shaking going after that. I have a hard time thinking that that's really what truly is happening there. So, that's what I would say. Hopefully that helps people understand a little bit better. So if we go back to here again, now if we look at the Enlil model now, okay, this thing keeps getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, and I don't know why this model keeps doing that. It's pushed back past the time of when that big CME happened. I'm not getting why this model has done this. But what you're seeing here is another CME that happened. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at that real quick. Because we had the one on the 29th. This one. And then yesterday, 2 days later, we get that one. Now, make no mistake, that is not a chump. That is a decent sized CME that came from that came from a sunspot that nobody thought was going to do anything like that. That was not a very big sunspot, and as a matter of fact, it's no longer a sunspot. It's completely stabilized and went away. So it blew that big flare up here, or big CME I should say, and then it's gone. This is why I say that stuff can come and go, and really, really quick. Things can, as fast as that went away, it could pop back up. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I'm talking about, you know. So let's see what else we got here. This is the magnetosphere. I have to put that away for a minute, guys. Sorry. I get distracted if I keep that up there. I'm like a squirrel. We'll come back to that in a minute. But as you can see, you know, this isn't when we really got... We're still getting some little bit of residual effect from that glancing blow we took. Okay, you're seeing it right there. That is not the massive part of it. You see how here everything is very, very low density? If you guys remember my video yesterday, it went from this to completely almost blue everywhere when we got hit. I showed it to you. And you're going to see something similar here, because we got hit again. See that? Now it didn't last as long because it was just a little, that was the back end of that glancing blow. Things went back to kind of the similar conditions. Okay, you can see we're still kind of reacting. Now remember, this is, you know, the blue is the higher dense material. So this means that there were hardly any kind of pressure going on here, or any kind of density, I should say. Be correct in one of my verbiage there. But most of the time, and this is something else I've been noticing, guys. You guys see this right here? That little anomaly now is staying there. That didn't used to be like that. We started noticing that a few months back, almost a year. It was a lot smaller though. Now it seems as though this thing is kind of opened up a little bit because it's, the particles are more dense here. So that kind of points to some sort of an opening to allow that stuff in, right? It's not major right now. I'm not going to make a big deal about it, but it is something as of note because it's staying there. It's been more of a constant feature than it hasn't. Okay, it moves position a little bit. We used to see this on the backside quite a bit. I mean, we've always seen backside pressure, okay? And I'm not going to go into why. You know, when we get hit from the front, I showed you guys yesterday how we have that boomerang effect where it kind of just comes back in, hits us on the back. But I also truly think that there is stuff coming from other places, and it could be affected from our object out by the sun and other things. Okay, it's all about electromagnetic interactions. Okay, that's what happens. That's how these are particles. That's how they get here. They travel those electromagnetic connections. That's what we see. Without that magnetic connection, none of that stuff gets here. Because they're charged particles. It's plasma. There's 4 states of matter. Solid, liquid, gas. And they used to stop it there. Did you guys know that? When I was a kid, in my textbooks, they just started putting plasma in there as a 4th state of matter. All plasma is charged gas. That's it. That is the only difference from gas. It is a charged gas. That's what we're seeing here, charged particles. And because it's charged, means it has a polarity, negative, positive. So it has to travel on those magnetic connection lines or it doesn't move. That's what happens. And when it does move, what influences all this? Other magnets, other, electromagnetic conditions, electromagnetism. That's what's affecting this, and most of that comes from our sun, okay, because it's the biggest one around. But I do think in our object out there, we can't forget that, all that stuff combined, okay, and now we've got, I'm going to touch on this in just a second, but here's the pressure. We're going to look at the pressure here while I'm talking. See how we got no pressure? All right, and then let's watch and see what happens. It's kind of building, right? We see this a lot. Notice how our magnetism is kind of tilted too. Now, we also have to understand we are in, we're getting ready to be at the solstice, and we do tilt. Okay, our planet tilts. So our magnetism does tilt also. Maybe not as drastic, or maybe not at the same rate as our true tilt of our Earth geographically. Okay, but it does tilt. what generates our electromagnetic field to begin with is what's underneath our feet for the most part. So if we're tilting, our magnetics are going to tilt with it. It may not be directly proportionate, but it does move. Okay, so what you're seeing here is that hit there, right here, that. Okay? That's why you're seeing that pressure just kind of get shot right off. That's how fast it happens too. Now, a lot of times if we get a very, consistent wind here, this is going to stay really, really red, really, really pressure, right? Now, but you can clearly see this looks like an egg. That's because we're getting pressure on the front and the back. And I'm sorry, guys, not all that's coming from the sun. We do get stuff from other directions. That's just what happens. I've been showing you guys an anomaly we've been seeing down here. That's been very, very consistently there. It's not there right now because our bow shock is kind of stretched out because there is no pressure happening. So we're actually able to push back against the wind a little bit better. So our bow shock kind of flattens out instead of wrapping it around. That's what happens there. Now, what I'm getting ready to show you here on ISWA, this here, anybody that watched my video from last night knows exactly what I'm getting ready to show you. Let me update that real quick, just to make sure that we get the most updated captures here. Pause that. So, if we look here, that's quite a bit of pressure back here, right? Look at that. I mean, that's a lot. And it's not like it's just pulsing. It's not pulsing like what we're seeing in front of us. It's staying there. That is a consistent pressure staying there. And what happens is, guys, the Earth acts like a capacitor, and every once in a while we can't hold any more energy, so we expel it. Watch, right here. Okay? This right here should show you what I'm talking about as far as directional. Let me back that up a little bit. I want you guys to notice this too. This is a very subtle thing that most people miss. Okay? We're kind of tilted this way. That's what we're seeing here. Now, not our planet, but our magnetics, right? So we got this pressure right here. Watch what happens. Do you see how it bowed that way? Most people miss that. That means that's directional. Something was pushing that way. Whether it came from the front and looped around, whether it came from underneath, on top, any of that stuff can happen. We have to understand this is two-dimensional. But we're all three-dimensional, so is space, right? So what we're looking at here, we have to understand that we cannot see this thing if it's coming from the south, north, east, west, any of that kind of stuff exactly. We have to understand this could be coming from underneath us, on the top, at a slight angle. And that would cause that to look like that, especially if it was coming from underneath. So we have to understand that that does happen. Hey Skywalker, what's up? My favorite name on YouTube. Love it. So, as we got this thing updated, let's look at what happens here. Now, I'm also a firm believer that when we see this wind speed, you're going to see this thing get really, really high, but it only does it on this model. I'm not so sure that that's the most accurate thing we can look at. Okay? When this thing gets like up to 2,000 or something, the other ones are not nowhere near that. So I'm not sure why that model does that. If it's just been, if that's just the way that it was put together and it's just been incorrect. But as you can see, notice how stuff is doing this after we got hit right here. Because we did get hit right there. That's the initial hit. But also I want to point out that this is not symmetrical. The stuff here and here is not matching. Things are directional. Things are messed up a little bit. So as we keep moving forward, that's a little bit of a hit. That wasn't the big one. Now there's a big one. See what I mean about this? Do you guys understand how fast that is? For every 400 kilometers per second, that's roughly 1,000,000 miles per hour. So if you divide that by 4, how fast are we talking? We're talking 4,000,000 miles an hour. Now, I'm not saying that that's completely impossible. I'm just saying that none of the other models are even showing close to this. So I don't think that that is the most accurate thing we can look at. This is something we can look at to see, when we get a real big blowout here, this will definitely say, hey, yes, we had an uptick in the speed. I get it, right? But, none of these other models are going to show it that high. Okay, and look how long it stays. Then it starts dying off. Notice that this stuff is, these are directional, right? Everything's moving that way. What's that mean? That means that did come from the sun because it was just pushing straight back. Whatever kind of energy we were getting from anywhere else, what we're getting from the sun here is so much stronger than anything else. And I want to point this out too. Over here, this. Remember I was just talking about that, right? What's that? That's the same thing. What did I just show you guys over here on this one? With this thing kind of pushing that way right there. What's this? Why is it happening up here? That's directional. You can't really look at that and say that that's not related. They're showing very, very similar things. And it's been my experience, and it's been my, my teachings, basically from Scott and everybody else that's helped me out throughout the years, that when we see stuff that's not symmetrical like that, it's directional. It has to come from somewhere. So why do we ignore it? We shouldn't. Notice how all this stuff here is different now too. And then we get hit again. Okay? These are not little chump hits. These are significant hits. And it's happening, it happens over the course of probably, if I had to guess, like 12 hours. And, it's happening at the exact same time that we should be experiencing if we were going to get a glancing blow from this one. It would be right now. So it's all matching up. And, I wasn't willing to say that this was not going to affect us. Matter of fact, I was telling everybody glancing blow probably. But I couldn't give you what it was going to do to us. If it was going to give us some sort of storm level, if it was going to do any of that, right? Because we don't really truly know until it arrives. We can look at our information and our data and have very, very good ideas of how close it's going to be to, how powerful it's going to be. But we can never be exact until it gets here. And unfortunately, I see a lot of people that jump out saying, oh my gosh, sky's falling. And that's exactly what we shouldn't be doing. We should not be doing that at all whatsoever. Because what happens is, when that stuff doesn't materialize, people that have been out there screaming that from the rooftop, oh my gosh, go to the hole in the ground and all that kind of stuff, right? They lose so much credibility that it's ridiculous. If it happens once, twice, people make mistakes, I get it. But come out, say, hey, what I said was going to happen didn't. Sorry, I made a mistake. And I've done that myself. And I've learned to step back, have some patience, wait for the data to come in, and then talk about it. Now, if I talk about it like when this thing first happened, because if you remember, I was getting ready to go to bed and I seen this thing start to happen. And I seen it over here. When I seen that flare starting to pop. because it was up in the M class range. So that's why I came on there, and that ended up being the biggest flare we'd had in over 3 years. So I'm glad I did it. But I also was telling you guys the whole time, listen, we're going to have to wait on the data to see if it's going to hit us as far as the CME with that flare. The flare had already hit us by the time I got online. We don't get any warning for those flares, guys. I get asked that a lot. You have to understand a flare and a CME is two different things. And I've tried to explain that so many times. And that's why I created that playlist. Okay? I got a playlist in if you guys go to my playlist, there's like 4 videos there that are about between 1 to 2 minutes long. And they explain straight to the point of what a solar flare is and what a CME is, solar wind, and sunspots. At a very basic level, you could get a very basic understanding of what we're actually looking at just by watching those 4 videos. And you can get that information that I put together there anywhere on the internet. It's not a hard thing to go find. I encourage people to go do that. But this right here, guys, is where it looks pretty monstrous because, yeah. But something else I want to say is this is something that we do see when we get hit, okay? Notice how everything is, again, directional already. Okay, and then we start feeling the first effects of that right there. And what this is it's kind of like the calm before the storm. It's like a foreshock with earthquakes. Okay? Our magnetism, our magnetopause, our electromagnetic field is starting to feel the beginnings of that glancing blow. It's way out there right now, right here on this capture. But it doesn't take long for it to get here, and then we start seeing these lines get all jacked up, and then we start seeing it move like that, and then, boom. Okay? So if we look, I already showed you guys this in my last video. Now, I could go back and show you every time we get hit from a CME like that, this very similar signature happens. It's a blowout. That's what we're seeing there. We got smacked. So if you guys see that, there it is. And then we get more. So that's within about a 12-hour time period. That's what we're seeing. Yeah, we took a big hit right there. So what did it do? What did it do? Well, let's look. Let's look and see if our geomagnetism's rising. It is. It's rising. Now, we're going to get to storm level? Probably not at this point. Okay? So it just hit us, and it just barely gave us a little bit of whatever, right? Hey, what's up, Axe? Good to see you. I was over at your channel watching some more stuff. I like your channel, man. I really do. I enjoy it. I like the little short ones. You and is it your wife or your girlfriend? I'm sorry, I don't know that. But just curious. Yeah, it did. Most certainly. That's what we were talking about. In my last video, I actually kind of was showing you guys that, matter of fact, early on, Scott, before you got in here, somebody, I don't know if it was a troll or whatever. It was asked in a very respectful way, but it was also kind of passive aggressive at the same time. Like, well, nothing ever happens from this stuff you're talking about. So I just took them straight here. This is a direct result of, okay, cool. Oh, that's Nacho? Awesome. What's up, Nacho? Did you guys hear that? You know what that was? I got one of those Google Home Nests. It was given to me free through, yeah, I know, guys. I know people are going to be like, unplug that thing. I get it, okay? Let me tell you something. If I unplug that, I might as well shut my phone off, my computer off, everything else. Because if they're going to get to it, they don't have to use that thing. I'm just saying. It is a tool that they use, I think, to watch people and watch us. But at this point, I mean, my gosh, can we really stop it from anything? No, if they want our data, they're going to get it. If it's that much. Is anybody else buffering? George says that. Yeah, exactly, Scott. Me and you both have been screaming that. It's hard to say. You know, guys, remember the earthquakes a couple days ago that happened in Russia, the 6.4, and then the one in Argentina, a 6.4, that happened 15 seconds apart from each other across the Pacific Ocean. What lined up with that? A solar flare hit us at the exact same time, just prior to that. We had this volcanic eruption down here. A flare hit just hours before that, right there. So, yeah. So that's that's what I'm trying to say, guys. That is most certainly, we have to understand that these earthquakes do pop off because of all that. Now, this is the Australian model. Guys, this thing is the most easiest thing to understand. Okay? So what we're looking at is the bow shock, obviously. This is the density, and that's the speed. It's that simple. It takes this visual here, all this stuff right here, and puts it into that. So I'm going to take it back a day to the first. And see how we're bent because we're getting this proton spike. The density. See how when it dropped, you see what happened there? Our bow shock pushed out because we were able to push back. We won that battle for a minute. Matter of fact, we won that battle too much. That's low density there. Normal density is around 4. You can find that information anywhere. Then it spikes again. Then we go to the second. Look at all that crap bouncing around everywhere. I'm gonna run that again. I'm gonna pause it. We'll go through that. This, you know what's good about this one, guys? This thing gives us a capture every minute. So if we're gonna go from 0.5 density to 11 in 1 minute, and then back to 0.4, that took 2 minutes, I think. Yeah. So we go from 0.5, which is virtually nothing, to 11.5 and then 11.3. And 2 minutes later, bam, right back to that. That's how fluctuant this is. Let me tell you something about that. We take bigger hits, and this affects the Earth a lot more when this thing is bouncing like that. We would much rather see it give it. That's why a solar wind stream doesn't affect us as intense as a CME does. Because usually a solar wind stream is very, very consistent uptick and downtick. It's more of a rise and a slight fall off. Usually. Now, a solar wind stream can obviously put us in a geomagnetic storm level because it gets here and it stays here and it keeps adding stuff to our atmosphere into our system. And that storm level can rise and rise and rise as long as it stays hitting us. But this is what we see with the CME. Okay? We take these big fluctuant bounces. Okay? And this is the satellite line. I think I forgot to say that. So when it gets inside that satellite line, obviously it can be affecting our satellites. Because, again, this is Earth's protection. The satellites have some protection from our electromagnetic field. but they don't have the protection we have here on our planet, because obviously the atmosphere isn't as good out that far. So this is our geoelectric field model. This is space weather's effect on our electrical grid. Let me refresh that, see what we got right now. Sometimes, guys, this is all or nothing on this map. Usually. So yeah, I mean, I should have showed you that time lapse before it updated, because we were getting a lot of energy there from that CME. So, hey BK, what's up, bud? Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, Scott's making a great point there with the volcanic stuff. Yeah. Remember that hadn't erupted since 2012. That volcano, the Luatola volcanic eruption. We had a small one the day before the big one that was 50,000 feet tall. Here, I got a video on that. Hold on a second, I'll show it to you. This right here. That was 50,000 feet tall, which is roughly about 15 kilometers or about 9.5 miles. And like Scott said, it continued to erupt afterwards. And typically they will for a while, but the number Scott was throwing out there is definitely excessive. It just kept moving. You know, at least 50 explosions. That's a lot in 9 hours. It just is. So, you know, that's definitely something that was pretty impressive. Now, we got some more of this also. Plus, guys, don't forget that there was another volcanic eruption roughly about the same size, I think a day later. It wasn't here, though. It was still in Indonesia, I believe, but it wasn't at this particular site. And, again, guys, when we look at volcanoes, we have to understand that is a seismic event, just like an earthquake is. It's all tied together. Every bit of it. Love back to you, J-Man. Oh, Scott, I'm not sure if you heard, but Mark Pyers lost his grandpa yesterday. I'm not sure if you were able to catch his show. I imagine you were probably sleeping because you're probably getting ready for work. I'm sure. Let me show you something here, too. This is something that me and Scott reported on a while back. I would love, and Scott, if you're listening, yeah, there you are. I would love to see what this looks like with your new technique. You remember this one, I'm sure. This is stereo A, guys. That's why the pixelization is so freaking horrible on it. Yeah, it'd be good, Scott. I think he'd like to hear from you, man. But he still did his show. That's how dedicated he is, guys. It's amazing. The dedication that guy has just to try to stay positive and spread that out, you know. It really is. It's amazing. But anyway, this here, guys, is, you know, I pulled this out because of some of the older stuff I had reported on. And you can see, you know, this stuff has been happening for a minute, and we all know that. I think Scott had a capture yesterday, too. I'm going to go look at that here in a minute over his page. If he's, I think he posted it already. Oh, yeah, you just said it. Okay. Yeah, I was just talking about it. So, yeah. Yeah, I'll go show it. Is it on your channel yet? I think you sent it to me via Messenger, but I want to show you guys this, too. This is just a little collage of, this is a collage of multiple creators' captures. Okay? This is from Bruce C. Zoll. I showed you guys a little piece of his video. Not, I didn't show you the video. I just showed you the thumbnail. That's the one that was going at the northern part of the sun. It was crazy. And what's crazy about that is this was from a backyard telescope. This is not from a satellite. I think this one was Mr. MBB3's. This was Scott's. This one was mine. So they're all matching fairly similar. I mean, and we talked about this when this happened. So I just wanted to show you guys this again to kind of give you a refresher of what we're actually seeing. So let me go over here to Scott's page real quick. Is it this one, man? Oh, okay. Oh, it's right here, right? Pretty sure. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah, when I looked at this, I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Look at that, guys. I'd already looked at it, and that's why I could kind of laugh. And let me tell you something. This is why I went to just letting it speak for itself. I'm not even going to say nothing. I mean, you guys have heard us all, me and Scott both have been, screaming this. And I don't think we have to scream it anymore. I think we let the work and the captures and observations just speak for itself. Let me see if I can't. Yeah, there we go. That's a little bit more in detail. Yeah, he's talking about, I think the detail he's wanting me to point out is probably that. That's a darker spot there. Now, I think it's staying pretty much in the same spot every time we see this thing, at least from what I can gather. So I don't know that that's like a moon or something of this thing. I don't think that it is. I don't know, okay? But if it stays in the exact same spot, it's kind of hard to say that that's probably a moon or something. It might be a, yeah, exactly. It all matches up, every bit of it. Guys, we're connected to the sun magnetically, okay? So anything that happens to the sun, we feel. It may not be large at the time, but this one was. So if this is interacting with the sun at the same time, that connection line is going to get jerked on. And sometimes that's what pops it all off. I mean, we can dig deep. Scott goes in real far here, zoomed in. I mean, that right there, for me, is one of the best captures on this one. Because it's just so evident that it's right there. You know what I mean? It just, yeah, it speaks for itself. It really does. Alright. So, yeah, I know. Yeah, that was the reverse. That's a negative shot, guys. What was black on that became white and vice versa. We do that a lot when we're looking at stuff because it does give us a better idea of what the shape of it actually is. So, earthquakes there. Okay, this is the most updated CME tracker. This is not reflective of anything that we. This is from the one that happened on the 30th. Okay, it's a smaller one. It's not the one that happened on the 1st. The one that happened on the 1st, this thing hasn't updated for. Notice the black. You see that black? If you look at the key over here, let me zoom out. It's at the top of the intensity as far as that goes. We don't usually see that. Well, let me rephrase that. We will see this kind of stuff more and more often as we get in higher, into the higher active areas in the sun cycle. We see this sometimes, okay? it's more and more evident because, as we get closer and closer and we keep moving into a more active time for the sun. It makes sense. But this early in the sun cycle, to have something that looks like that, I'm not trying to say that this is like really, really crazy. I'm just saying that to me, it's a little bit quicker than what we should be experiencing. And I've been kind of talking about this too. Let me show you. This right here. If you go back to the same two years in the last sun cycle. So 2019, we set a space age record. 77% of the days we had no sunspots facing Earth. That means it was low activity. If we go back here to the 2008, which is 11 years prior, that was at 73, which is still pretty low. Okay? That's solar minimum. Not grand solar minimum. That's just solar minimum. Okay? Let me set that straight up right out here in the front. There's a huge difference between a grand solar minimum and a regular solar minimum. This is a more intense minimum, obviously, by the percentage. You can see that. But the uptick for the very next year in the solar cycle, last solar cycle, was 71%, which means that was a difference of 2% increase. If the year was to end today, the same 2 years in this solar cycle comparative to that, you can see it right there. That's 16% increase already versus 2. And our magnetic field is weaker. About 25% weaker than what it used to be. Right? And I already talked about this. We went from having 5 sunspots facing us to 3. Because one of them rotated off. This one up here dissipated. And I think one of them that was going to crest kind of dissipated too. So that's kind of what we're seeing there. Now, I don't agree with this statement here because I just showed you that it did glance us. But he was talking about this before that hit us. So the timing could be off and they may make a correction to this. I don't know yet. But in my opinion, that CME is exactly what we've seen, what I've been showing you guys all, the whole time here. Because we had no other inclination of a solar wind stream or anything. And it did come from the direction of the sun. So in my opinion, that did give us a glancing blow, and I've already showed you that. Yeah, it's going to increase really, really fast now, guys. That's what I said. When I started seeing this thing not have that little 2% increase variable there, and it went to like 5, and I was like, huh. Then it went to 7, and that's when I started talking about it. Because we have to know. It's just being aware. That's what that's about. And we will. And what's evidence of that? This right here. Look, guys, we had a huge halo CME on the 29th, and then it still kept ejecting on all sides of the sun. 2 days later, we get like a 3/4 CME, halo CME right here. It's complete evidence that we're not going to go back to that quiet crap. It's not going to happen. We may go back down a little bit from time to time because that's a normal thing to do. But this thing is going to uptick and uptick and uptick, and everything here is playing a part, including what I showed you guys over on Scott's channel. That has a big part to do with what we're talking about here. Now, you guys know if I think something's normal, I try not to uptick it, right? I always say when I think something's probably pretty much normal, or, this is kind of what we would expect to see. So when I say that I think something's out of the ordinary, I mean that. I mean it's something different than what we should be seeing. So, yeah. I don't know what you're talking about there, Watchman Warrior. Taylor, the 2017 cycle really wasn't, we had some stuff happen then, there was some activity, but it wasn't we were at 28%. Remember, the activity, the majority of it was 2-3 years before that. So just know that. A sun cycle is a thing of 11 years. Yes, 2017 we had some stuff happen, but it wasn't the most active year on the sun cycle. Yeah, I've been saying that the sun cycle was upticking for over 6 months now. About that fast. Now it's increasingly got faster. And I didn't want to come out and just completely say, hey, this is gonna boost up and say something before I could actually prove it, and that's why I didn't. And I think that what happens a lot is people do jump out there and they do say grand statements like that, with the I've heard. I ain't talking about Watchmen here. I ain't talking about that. I'm not talking about you. There's other people out here that will just, oh my gosh, take something that's so small and completely just blow it up. It is, without really much of any kind of evidence or any kind of data to back it. Now, what Scott's saying here on the Australian heat, there's evidence for that. And there's a lot of evidence that he's collected, and that's why he can say that. He's done research on it. He ain't just out here making little claims for no reason. And, Watchman is doing the same thing. Doing research, making statements that he thinks is going to happen on the research that he's doing. It's not like he or she, I'm not sure if it's a woman or a guy, I'm sorry. It's obvious that that's happening. You can tell when people do that and when they don't, because they actually have stuff to back up what they're saying. And that's just kind of crazy. That it's one thing I've learned throughout all this, and Scott helped me get there with that, and that was patience. You have to have it. If you don't, if you're a woman, okay. Because it says Watchman. That's why and I get that that's just a pronoun. So thank you for clarifying that. I'll try not to make that mistake again. And, and we appreciate anybody like Watchman here that does do research and adds a little bit of something to it. Like I said, we don't want to jump out there before, but we also don't want to sit back and not say nothing at all. It's a fine line that we all try to make, and unfortunately, sometimes we make mistakes, including myself. We all make mistakes. I just, when I was talking about the sun cycle, I 100% agree with Watchman there. I really do. She was saying that. That's just a fact. And what Scott's saying there is a fact too. You can prove it. And Taylor makes a good point about 2017 too. I think more what she's talking about there is the big flares and stuff that we did get. This number is not reflective of any kind of intensity of flares. All this percentage is telling us is the amount of days that sunspots are facing Earth. That's it. It cannot tell you any kind of intensity. It's telling you activity. That's it. And I think that they need to change that a little bit. I really do. There's so much more data we can collect now to make a better decision on that. One thing I do like what they did, they're now waiting and they're retroacting back the start of the sun cycle. So say the sun cycle really started back in February. They wouldn't say it out in February. They waited until, I don't know, July or something. But they retroed it back to that date. And I think that's the thing to do. Because again, they've had patience and that's what we see. Wow, that's interesting. You see that? The satellite from 1966 came back in, it looks like. It's flying past Earth at only 30,000 miles away. Huh. Wow. Didn't know that. Also, guys, check this out. 56 fireballs. Now, yes, that's above average. Okay? Yesterday, when I showed you this, it said 6. That's the difference in one day. Kind of crazy. Now, remember, yesterday we had this one passes, and I didn't make no big deal about it because we didn't need to. This thing was not very big. It wasn't moving that fast. So there was no reason to make a big deal about it. Now, here on December 3rd, and I think they added this one, guys. So let's go look. How do we look? Well, we go up here to the top here, and we change the date, the view date. So if we go back to the 1st, hit view, let's see if it's there. It's there. So we'll go back another day. I don't think it was there a couple days ago. I could be wrong. And yeah, it wasn't there 2 days ago. So they just discovered that yesterday. Now it's 0.9. That means it's inside the distance of the moon. LD is lunar distance. The distance from us to the moon. Here is that. See? 6 fireballs. We go from that to 56. Kind of crazy. Yeah, the tilt stuff. I mean, guys, there's so many things going on all at once. It's crazy. It is hard to keep up with, believe me. So, I'm going to show you guys something here too. One more thing, because I really appreciated what happened here. I'm going to show you guys this. This is a guy a lot of you guys probably know. It's Rip Curl. Okay? Anybody that goes over to Marsh probably knows. He comes to my channel. He's one of my mods. He's over at Mark Pyers. He's around. Okay? But what I want to do is, I'm just going to show you the very first part of his video. Because he makes some statements here I think are great.
Hey, good midday to Rip Curl Crew. I am hoping you're having an awesome day, getting things done you need to get done, getting prepped up, and heck, maybe even having some fun. But I hate to be a little bit of a downer, but I want you guys to know what's going on while we're being distracted with our misinformation, disinformation, and heck, sometimes the truth can be thrown in there and we'd never recognize it. Also, we're really ramped up on the division of preppers and patriots and even the left. They're trying to split us. They're trying to get us fighting each other so they don't have to. And this is what's happening while that's all happening. And I want you to know, when we get wrapped up in those kind of things, it's made and done for a reason so that we're not concentrating on other things that may be going out. This was brought to us also by Pinball Preparedness. Really thank him, want to give him credit in there. You guys should check him out as well. This is a high-up Chinese socialist. Says his name there. I'm not even going to bother trying to say that. And it's from our neighbors overseas there that, have just surpassed us in their Navy. And I guess they're feeling pretty bold and proud of it, especially when you see what I'm about to show you.
结果没想到中国要在2027年超过美国。2027年，原来说是可能还要缓个1-2年，结果今年这个上帝搞了个小阴谋，是吧？上帝给这个搞出来一个。
Okay, I'm gonna stop it there. I need you guys to go over and watch it over there, just to give you guys a basic of what he's saying here. This guy is an official over there. He has said right here. Just read that. I'm not going to say it. He's saying that God created this and gave it to all the countries in the world so they can be where they're at. It's ridiculous. This is how bold people are coming now, guys. It's ridiculous. It really is. So that's what I'll say there. But that's Rip's channel. Guys, go over here and watch it. Yeah, exactly, Watchman. That's what I was saying there. God didn't do that. Just saying. Yeah. What'd you say, Scott? Oh, that dude looks like an alien? See what I missed here. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Definitely climate change stuff. Yeah, exactly. We guys, me and Scott's been talking about what's tugging on us for years. It's you know, there's stuff out there by the sun, guys. We know it. It's there. Look at the observations. That's all I can say with that. And we've shown you time and time and time again the observations that we have and the data, and we showed you timestamps. We showed you all kinds of crazy stuff that kind of relate and directly shows when that thing's in certain positions. I went back when we were first seeing it, as far as, you know, consistently. I went back and looked at CMEs, and they were happening in a consistent cycle every time we seen that thing for months on end. It's not a coincidence. It's just not. So yeah, let me give you guys a little update here. So right now, guys, you know, that is a, you know, it looks like the radiation's starting to kind of level back out here with the proton flux. Okay. Again, nothing for us to worry about here on the surface. This didn't even get into storm level. But that is direct radiation. Astronauts, like I said, and satellites is the main risks there. Now we'll have to wait and see where this bar ends up. I don't think it's going to get much higher than what it is now. It may get a little bit, maybe a couple levels. I don't think we're going to get into storm level, because if you look here, it looks like the stuff is kind of tapering off. And that's kind of what I would expect with a glancing blow from that big halo CME. So I don't know, you know. If that's going to get any higher, could not, don't know. But that's just one of the things we're going to have to wait and see. This is the sun right now. You can see that we got another active area getting ready to crest over. We had a few flares, not many. And they weren't big. So, here's one of them right there. Watch right here on my cursor. See that? That's a flare. Not a big one, but it flared. So yeah. So I guess I am going to go ahead and just pop off here, guys. I really didn't want this one to go this long, but you know how it goes. You know how it goes. So, guys, I appreciate you guys being here. Guys, go show Mark Pyre some love. He lost his grandpa. Go show Rip some love. Hey, OU. 812, what's going on, Jeff? Yeah, guys. Listen. See you, bud. Have a good day, Scott. Really, man. Stay safe. Take care of that wife. Anyway, Jeff was talking about this, the obelisk stuff that's been happening. The one obviously out west here disappeared, and it got replaced with like a rock, some rocks or something. One of them looked kind of like a pyramid. It was blue. Guys, I don't know the validity of any of that. When I see something that's got rivets on it, and you can clearly see where they cut the ground with like a concrete saw, I question, you know. And then the new one that they seen over there was made out of metal, obviously. And you can literally see what looks like a wire brush, like they put it in like a wire sander and sanded the whole thing. So, you know what I mean? I don't know who put it there, what did it. When we start seeing stuff like that, I know that things can kind of go one direction or the other, and I'm not sitting here claiming that whatever at all, because what I'm not going to do is say that it's something that I can't prove, because I can't prove any of it. I can just show you what other people have went out there. A lot of people went out there out west and actually went to it and seen it, and got a lot of good footage of it, even aerial footage from drones and stuff. Thanks, Angelo. I appreciate that. Really do. So just kind of keep that in mind when we're looking at stuff. Again, is there any way we could actually ever get to the 100% truth on any of that? Not really. Thank you, Alyssa. Appreciate that. See you, J-Love. Lady, Arizona, Jerry. Everybody else is in here. Serena. So, you know, again, I can't prove any of it, so I'm not going to claim it's anything. You know, I will show you the observations if you guys wanted to see it. I guess I could, but you can go on the internet and just find it. It's there. So, yeah, Steve, when you see one and you see how it was made and you see, here, let me say this. If it was something that was benevolent or something that was really, really, like, way more technologically advanced and it was this and that and the other, I just have a hard time thinking it would have been put together the way that it was. Because any other kind of like stuff we see from anywhere else that has like an obelisk or any kind of thing like that, you know, just go look at Stonehenge. It's a big rock, and you can tell that it wasn't specific. You know what I mean? It wasn't really done. It looks almost like we couldn't have done it. And that's kind of what I'm saying. You know? And again, that's just my opinion. And I respect everybody else's on that. It's just, yeah, Steve, there are. Go look at it, guys. If you guys don't think there's rivets in the one that was here in the States out west, go look at it. They're there. And the corners, they don't even come directly together. It's really, really, yeah. I just have a hard time with any of that, thinking that that's, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, okay? It's just my opinion on that, so. Anyway, thanks everybody for being here. Hope you guys have a great day. I'll keep you guys updated as much as I can. God bless. Yahusha saves, and you can drink this